Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you may be in the world. Welcome to Thoughtful Nuggets and Pearls on Gift of Healing TV. I'm Sarah Jane, and I am delighted to be joined in this programme by Shirley Batty. Shirley, thank you so much for agreeing to join me this evening.
Well, thank you, Sarah, for the invitation. A chance for me to speak.
My pleasure. Our topic for this Thoughtful Nuggets and Pearls is you never know when you are being lucky. Shirley and I have known each other for a number of years. We live actually very close to each other, not far at all. And you're on a program with us fairly recently, today's conversation program. And there were parts of our conversation that we had, and we mentioned things that have happened in our lives. And sometimes your life can feel as if it's falling apart. And it's real, and it's only afterwards, isn't it, that you can actually look at it and think, that has made my life so much better.
Yeah.
I think as Neil Donald Walsh put it, perhaps when everything's falling apart, it's actually falling together. So Shirley, so have you got anything that you'd like to share, any stories? Because I think if we can tell stories, it can really support people with what's going on in their lives and hopefully help them feel that actually maybe it's not so bad.
Well, I think one story that some people have heard of, is this guy who had had a son, and they were recruiting all the men to go to war. This was in China or somewhere. And the son broke his leg, so he couldn't go to war. And he was really upset, really disappointed. He really wanted to go to war, and the father wanted to be proud of him and all the rest of it. But because he broke his leg, he couldn't join. The platoon that he would have joined all got killed in the war. So that bad luck actually turned into very good luck for both of them. That sort of thing happens. My own luck, I didn't see it at the time. Again, it was a miserable time, is when my second husband decided that we should part. I was devastated. It took me 2 years to get over him, actually. But looking back, it was a gift. It was the best thing that Spirit could have organised, that he on another level had organised. So what I thought was awful was actually the best thing ever. They got him out of the way. And I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing had we stayed together. That's the sort of thing, we think it's unlucky because we're talking about luck. But actually it wasn't bad luck. I don't believe in luck anyway, in any sense. I believe that we make our own luck. That it's not given and not a given. And it's often not until much later that we realise just how lucky we've been.
Oh, absolutely. I think you've only got to think of the Twin Towers in the States and how many people should have been in those buildings and actually weren't at that point in time.
I think there was a little bit more to it than that. I think they were told, or there was some organisation that kept them at home, because that was a setup for a start. I think most people know. And that happens a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I will tell you one occasion when I can call it luck, but as you and I know, everything is planned. So it isn't by chance, everything happens for a fact. I was driving my car, this was in Italy, and there was a lorry in front, few cars ahead of me, and it was loaded with metal sheet. And one of the straps securing it broke, and a sheet of metal came off. I was too far back for it to have hit me, but had it hit me, it would have sliced me in half. Now, is that luck? That I was not right behind this lorry? But I think it's all sorted anyway by Spirit.
It wasn't your time.
It wasn't my time. But some people would say, wasn't it lucky that you weren't right behind? You know, luck is how you perceive something rather than what is actually um, seen as just a pure chance.
Oh, I think for some people, it's being able to read that word lucky
Yeah,
is, but I think, yes, we both understand that, yeah, it's divine timing, it's things happen, synchronicity.
yeah,
Um, and you going on about husbands, it was my second husband, and it was just like, it was absolutely the right time to leave. But what got me to leave was the fact that I ended up with a broken jaw via the dentist. Thank you very much indeed. Extracting the wisdom tooth. Didn't know it was broken for a week. I had 6 months of pain and sleepless nights with
Oh.
it. Nothing seemed to touch the pain. It went in. It was that real cycle of pain spasm, you know, sort of, and it really was not a fun 6 months. But I'd been a real people pleaser. I was so desperately shy and worried about what other people thought about me. And at the end of that 6 months of pain and sleepless nights, it was almost as if that gave me the impetus and the courage. I can't do this anymore. And eventually, it also resulted in the end of my marriage. And he certainly didn't want an end to it, but I definitely had enough. And it was almost as if sometimes we have to make that move. The universe won't make that move for us. But when we show out we're willing, it was amazing. You could call it, you know, coincidence, whatever. But I broke up my marriage. I then was told we were all going to get made redundant because the company I was working for had been taken over. And suddenly, so much fell into place that brought me down to Bournemouth. And I suppose I didn't actually see it as my world falling apart. Although obviously those type of things happening, marriage ending, job being taken away from you, sort of, and obviously with the broken jaw as well, you could see that as somebody's world falling apart. But I almost felt I was being given my life. Maybe that's the wrong word. Given my life back. I was able to take control of life.
yeah, yeah. Makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. It was my choice.
Yeah.
But what we have to realise, though, is everything is our choice, isn't it?
Mm.
The staying where we potentially shouldn't be, the leaving, the sitting on the fence and not making a decision, it's all our choice.
Yeah. And what we often consider to be really disastrous and pulling us down to the ground actually turns out to be the best thing ever.
Yeah.
Really. We just can't see that far ahead. And this is where trust comes in. And when things do go wrong, I mean, they're going to go wrong in anybody's life. And it pulls you down to the ground, perhaps. But if you can hold on to the fact there is a good outcome as a result of this that wouldn't have happened had this not happened. And it gives you something to go forward with, I think. There's hope at the end of the tunnel. Well, there's me mixing up metaphors here. Light at the end of the tunnel.
But we should always have hope in whatever is going on in our lives.
Yeah.
Sort of hope can keep us going. You know, sort of, if you're going to sink, you're going to do it. And some of us, for some reason, choose to have that experience of sinking really low.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I do remember it, gratefully for me, it was only a weekend. And for some reason, it must have been a 3-day weekend. So there must have been a bank holiday there somewhere.
Yeah.
But I remember sinking really, really low. And even and I think it was when that thought of sort of ending it all sort of popped into my head, it was just like, no. And it was almost as if something within me sort of said, hey, where do you think you're going? No, I was very lucky. for some reason, I was able to pull myself back out
Yeah,
of it
yeah,
very quickly.
yeah.
But it's not a fun place to be.
But you see, there's other people would say, like an example of parking your car in a street, and then a tree falls, just misses your car. And people say, oh, that was lucky. But it was all intended anyway by forces that we can't see.
Yeah.
They are guides. It wasn't the time for your car to be smashed.
No, or you to be in it and be part of that. You know.
Absolutely, yes. So I think everything is sorted and organised and done and dusted already. We just got it's timelines. You just got to work through it.
And that's where the saying divine timing comes in, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, but it's also using that word synchronicity, because when I sort of left the marriage, we heard about the redundancy, but the company was being taken over actually by Liverpool Victoria, and as you and I know, they're local to us, sort of in Poole, stroke Bournemouth. They're right on the border of the two, at Westbourne, and they were the company that took us over, and I was living in Northampton at the time, and when I took a 6-month secondment that brought me down to Bournemouth. They paid for my flat. They gave me a subsistence allowance. Seriously, talk about falling on your feet.
yeah. That's brilliant.
That couldn't have happened if I'd still been in my marriage.
Yeah.
Because it just couldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
And they were prepared to take me on full time, but they needed to find me a role. And I wasn't necessarily convinced about working for Liverpool Victoria. So at the end of the 6 months, I actually bought my little house over sort of at Bearwood, and then I took redundancy from them. And within 6 days, had walked into a brand new job.
That's wonderful. See, all sorted.
And that was over the Easter weekend, so it wasn't even really.
You did very well, I reckon.
But isn't that, if that's not coincidence, that's synchronicity. That's the universe at work.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah.
But the house that I bought, I'd already offered on another house and had that accepted. And then between the Christmas and the New Year, through the door dropped an envelope from one of the estate agents. And I looked at it and I said, I'm not even going to open it. I put an offering on the house, I've had it accepted. But I kept looking at it, and this was before I became aware of all of this that I do now.
Yeah.
But I was in that trust place. I suppose for so long I've been in that trust place. And I looked at it and I said, if the property is vacant possession, and just in case people don't know what that means, it means it's empty. And so they will obviously want a quick sale. If it is vacant possession, I will potentially go and have a look at it. I opened the envelope. There was one sheet of paper. The property was vacant possession. I went, had a look at it, and I felt really awful letting the other people down.
Yeah.
But I went and I was able to make an offer. I said, that price, complete in 6 weeks. No negotiation. They came back and said, done.
Just like that.
Just like that, and it was all done in 6 weeks.
Yeah. That's brilliant, isn't it?
But it's about me taking that action. It's about each of us being involved in our lives, isn't it?
Yeah. They throw us little chances, little threads, I call them. And if you recognise it as a thread, as a chance, and grab it, it always works out.
Yeah.
It's when you ignore them and stay in your wallowing, oh dear, this is all awful, then that's where you'll stay. So it's up to us individually every time.
Yeah. And so it's looking at things and thinking, okay, maybe stuff isn't so good at the moment. But there is, as you said, the light at the end of the tunnel. There is if you are open to letting there be.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. I suppose when I sort of actually took the bull by the horns and said, marriage is over, I didn't even know where I was going to sleep that night. Because I didn't know whether he'd kick me out of the house. I was very lucky. He didn't want an end to the marriage, so I moved into the spare room. But I think after a month of that, it was just not fair on either of us to do that.
No.
So I sort of rented a little house for 6 months, and then that all fell into place with the secondment down to Bournemouth, and it was amazing the synchronicities that occurred when I got myself out of a place I shouldn't be.
You took charge of your situation,
Yeah.
actually, rather than the situation taking charge of you.
Yeah. Oh,
Makes
because I could have just got stuck.
Mm. Yes, instead of sitting down and having a moan, you got on with things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I think it's really important for people that listen to this to realise we absolutely understand that life can be very uncomfortable at times.
Yes. Yeah.
It really can. And it can have great disappointments. I think you think about, you've booked to go on holiday, you miss a plane, you miss your flight. But then that flight, there's something that happens.
Yeah.
And you go from feeling so unlucky
Yeah.
to feeling so lucky.
Mm.
You know, how many times, I mentioned the Twin Towers, but train crashes, plane crashes, car crashes, people that should have been places that they weren't.
Mm.
And you hear so many stories around these things that happen.
Spirit got it all sorted already.
Yeah, my personal belief is that we've made agreements to experiences.
Yeah.
We've made agreements to what we're here for, what we're here to do, to bring, to learn. Well, no, learn's the wrong word, because I don't think it's about learning, because I think we know everything. It's about remembering.
Yeah.
It's about remembering who we are.
Yes, and even thinking about it. Not many people do think about it, though, do they? They just survive each day, you know, without looking too far. But that's okay. Everybody's doing exactly what they're meant to be doing, and it isn't the same for everybody. You know, it's got to be different for each person.
Oh, it's like the cogs of a mechanism. They're all slightly different.
Yeah.
Because they need to be for the mechanism to work.
Yeah. But it's all, everything is okay. So I keep saying it's all as it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's stuff going on in the world at the moment. And for many people, it can feel like the world's falling to pieces. But for me, is it falling to pieces, or is it just collapsing so that it can come back together in a much healthier, better, fulfilling, people-orientated rather than money-orientated way?
I think we've got more of that to come.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we've definitely got more change. I'm going to call it change. You know, some people would see that as good, and some people would say, "Oh, that's dreadful."
But I think, it's from, sort of, you're a little bit older than me, but how many changes have we seen in our lifetime? Everything has moved so fast.
Yeah.
In the last few years with technology. When I started doing fairs and events, yes, the internet existed, but being able to do things like this didn't exist.
No.
So I suppose I don't think of change so much, although change is probably the right word for a lot of stuff. But I think of growth. And when it comes to people, I think it's a matter of, it's not about changing who you are, it's about growing into who you are really.
Yeah. Going along with the change.
Yeah. But the word change to me, especially to do with humans, suggests there's something wrong with you. And I don't think there's anything wrong with any of us.
No. We're all souls, just some enjoying and some not enjoying their journey, basically.
Yeah.
And we've all earned wherever we are. It's all come as a result of our previous lives and what we are as a soul. So each body's journey is totally dependent on who they are as souls. It's not dependent on the experiences they're in. It's depending on who you are as an individual.
And we've made choices.
It brings us back to this lucky thing.
Yeah.
I don't believe in luck. I think what happens, you've earned it one way or the other, and it's all set in order anyway. It's not luck. And people say to me, "Oh, you are lucky. You've got your own home." I think, no, luck has got nothing to do with it. That was bloody hard work
Yes.
and toil.
Yeah.
Luck doesn't come into that, in my opinion. You know, oh, you are lucky. You can still do this. I said, no, it's not luck. We create our own existence and our own lives. Luck doesn't come into it. I'm sorry, but it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. You know, so we make a choice. I've made a choice that I'd like to have my own home. You know, I personally don't choose to go into rented accommodation. You know, sort of, it means that I obviously have the bills, mortgage, and etc. that go with that. But that's my choice.
Yeah.
If that means I can't afford to go on really expensive holidays and do this, that, and the other that other people can do. Do you know what? That's my choice.
Yeah.
I haven't got a home. I had a friend at one time, and she lived in rented accommodation, but she'd done loads of travelling around the world. So I could turn around and say, "Oh, you're so lucky," but actually, I've made my choices. My choice was the security of a roof over my head.
Yeah. You know, people say to me, "Oh, aren't you lucky? You've been over so many parts of the world." And you know, I wish I could do that. I said, buy the tickets.
Yeah.
It's up to you. Buy the blooming ticket. You
Yeah.
can do it. You know?
Absolutely. It is all about choice.
Yeah.
You know, the lucky thing, the experiences, and I know this can be a hard one for people to take, but that wake-up call of the broken jaw, that was actually my choice. I personally believe that was a gift I gave myself. It didn't feel like a gift at the time.
Yeah.
But I really can look back at it and think that was a gift I gave myself to wake me up.
Yeah. Good. And it's done all right.
I
Yeah.
am so content with my life. It was the beginning, but it was the beginning I had to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did go into trust, and when something happened at the office that I was working at the time, and it was not long after. I hadn't gone round spreading it that I walked out on my marriage. That was my business. That wasn't anybody else's business. But something sort of did crop up with somebody who was actually my immediate boss at the time. And bless her cotton socks, she was not a nice piece of work. But she wasn't. She was known as the dragon, which I think is an insult to dragons, personally.
Oh. Yeah. It's awful. We give names like that to people we don't care for, and yet the names are lovely, actually.
Bearing in mind how connected to dragons I am, but you know, they always refer to her office as being the dragon's lair. You know, but you know, something happened with her, and the overall boss, who actually happened to be the finance director, didn't do things little. Finance director, and he sort of said to me, he sort of asked me what had happened or whatever, and he said, "Would you make a complaint about her?" I said, "I really don't feel I can, because I don't think it was work related. If it had been work related, but it was to do with somebody who had a dog, a puppy, and then sort of ended up by rehoming it or whatever, and that's you know, it happened. And then she went all up in arms about it. I understood, and sort of, and it was just one of those things. But she really wasn't very pleasant. I guess she'd had a load of stuff go on in her own life, and it was her own insecurities and whatever.
Mm.
And I think it's being able to look at that, isn't it? When something happens with somebody, and I don't know, I feel I've been very blessed with a trusting, the learning of Reiki and not feeling anything or hearing anything and seeing anything. But I still absolutely trust the energy that I offer is the energy that is totally right for that individual. And it's being able to get into that place of trust when things are going on in your life.
Yeah.
And we all have it, don't we?
Well, we need to, don't we? Otherwise, we wouldn't go through. I mean, there's an awful lot of suicides going on at the moment, it seems. There's a lot of talk about suicides. Those individuals must be going through absolutely awful times to be able to do that, because it takes courage to commit suicide. It's not easy. So we've all got our own little challenges, I suppose.
But I know, Kate, I've heard people turn around and say that suicide is people opting out of actually their choices. And it dawned on me when a friend of mine committed suicide, and he jumped in front of a train at the Parkstone.
That's awful way.
And he didn't die outright. He was trapped under the train, but he hadn't got any identification on him, so he was a John Doe for a while, for a couple of days. But my heart also goes out to the train driver. But for me personally, thinking about that, it was part of his choices for this life.
Yeah.
And the train driver, it was part, and the people that witnessed it, every single person involved in that, it was, they were all in that agreement of what happened.
Yeah.
But what, for me, the saddest part was going to his funeral, and there were about 200 odd people at that funeral.
So he must have been very loved.
Oh, but the thought to me was he had no one he could talk to. He felt that he could talk to.
Yeah.
And it was so sad, because he was only in his mid to late 50s.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I think there are an awful lot of people exiting at this time. You've got to think of sort of the number of deaths that are being reported of famous people at the moment.
Yeah. Well, quite often, I don't know if this is across the board, but quite a few of famous ones who commit suicide.
Yeah.
They probably got caught up in things they don't want to be caught up, can't see a way out. The only way they can see is to get out, which is sad,
Yeah.
But it does happen.
Yeah.
They can't deal with what they've found themselves in, because it's not reality as a rule when famous people get involved.
Yeah.
It's not everybody's life. It's a very unusual, difficult life, I think.
Well, and they work such peculiar hours, don't they?
Well, then, yeah. I feel sorry for famous people, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah. Yeah. But they've come down with that agreement that they're going to be.
Yeah, everything's in plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I suppose, any final words to support people that might be going through something at the moment that they're struggling with? Because I think it is those times when we are in the greatest struggle, that the greatest gifts can come out of it. But it's how do we get through that?
Well, my own way of doing anything like this, I sit and I meditate, which sometimes is just like a prayer. And I ask for help. from the highest source. Ask for help. If it's a medical thing, physical pain, whatever, ask for the spirit doctors. Ask for Jesus to come and help. But do the asking. Don't sit there and suffer without turning to anybody. And the best person you can turn to is your own spirit guides. And for me, it would be Jesus. He will send whoever's necessary. But you've got to do the asking for help.
Yeah.
When you ask for help, it will be found for you. And those who are in desperate need, ask for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Asking, sort of, I remember my mum, she sort of, when her gentleman friend, we lost my dad 11 years ago, and a couple of years after that, she sort of met a gentleman friend. And when he was dying, and she actually rang me and she said, Sarah, because he got a hardening of the lungs, so there was nothing anyone could do. And she said, Sarah, will you give him permission to leave? Because I'd actually done that for my dad. So I was with him, and it was, how do I do this? Because he's miles away.
Yeah, but through the mind.
And I remembered that somebody had said, you can ask your angels to speak to their angels.
Yeah.
But the thing that first came to me was, look, right, there's my higher self, my soul. And so I asked my soul to speak to his soul.
Yeah.
Then I remembered about the angels, and I asked them as well.
Do you know what happens, Sarah? Sometimes, and there's other people who tell me, they say, oh, Shirley, you were in my dream last night, and you were doing this, that, and the other. And they say, oh, Shirley, you said, and I have no knowledge of this, but obviously when I'm not alive, like here now, I'm doing other things. So why not? We're all capable of doing that.
Yeah. Well, there was a saying I literally saw, it was either earlier today or yesterday, and it was, when you're asleep in this life,
yeah,
you're awake in another.
In the other one, yeah.
Or when you're asleep in this reality, you're awake in another, yeah.
Some dreams are so real, you can't believe that they're not real.
I wish I remembered mine.
Yeah. Tell yourself to remember your dreams before you go to sleep. Tell yourself, I will remember my dream.
Oh, I do actually. It's part of the ritual I have every night. But I'm a great believer in the memories will come when they're meant to.
Yeah.
So, Shirley, thank you so very much. This has been a real pleasure. Folks, if you would like to get in touch with Shirley, I will make sure that her website address is under the video on YouTube, and it's on the Gift of Healing TV website, on the About Us page, because of the guests that we have on. So not every guest we've had since we started in 2014, but certainly our most recent guests. Information is there with how you can connect with that. So please feel free to do that. And thank you for watching. If you've got questions, then please feel free to ask. Next week, we have a today's conversation, Becoming a Clear Channel, and our guest is Susan Brown. So I hope you will join today's conversation team next week. Shirley, thank you so much. Take care, be safe, stay well, spirit soul.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.